Hey folks, so a really special turntable today. This is the Technics SL-15. This is the programmable version of the SL-10, the iconic SL-10 that's featured in the Museum of Modern Art. So really iconic design. This shares the overall shape, is actually identical to the SL-10 in overall shape and look. Main difference being that the track program buttons are added here, and so the viewing window is a little bit smaller. Otherwise, it's identical. These buttons are the same. And so just a note, the SL-15 was introduced shortly after the SL-10, which was introduced in 1979. So this, I believe, is early 1980. And just a little sense of where it fell in the lineup. The SL-1200 Mark II, really they're one of their best, Technics best turntables. That's loved and coveted to this day, especially by DJs for its phenomenal build quality. That was available at the same time as this, and that cost $400. The SL-10 was $600, and the SL-15 was $900. So this was a very expensive turntable, and it wasn't just a matter of technologies or convenience. These were built to a very high standard, and while they're kind of the highlight is that the overall shape from length and width is the size of a record jacket. From the standpoint of performance, technical specifications, these are amazing turntables. All metal construction in terms of this top, this bottom. Platter is very substantial with a very substantial motor. Linear tracking, direct drive, quartz controlled. So specifications are phenomenal. Audio quality is incredible. So these, don't mistake these for toys. These were intended to be audiophile grade turntables with really with all the technology available at the time, and they're incredible to this day. So let's power it up. Power it up. The like I said, you have your programmable buttons here, so it adds that feature to the overall same button complement of the SL-10. If we open it up, we see on the inside it's very similar as well. It has the same platter turn button, which is really nice to have. Allows you to dust your records prior to playing. One interesting thing from a technology standpoint, so it has the rail for allowing the tone arm carriage to move across. It also has another rail here where a sensor is moving across. So that sensor is finding the tracks on the record based on the shininess of the surface of the record. The SL-10 has slots in the platter, and there's LEDs under there that shine on sensors up here to tell the turntable what the size of the record is. This one has no slots, and it's using this sensor to find the beginning of the record. So whether it's 12, 10, 7, I don't have any non-standard records like 6 or 8 or anything like that. I would think it would be able to find those as well, but I haven't been able to test that since it's actually finding the beginning of the record in order to play. And then it does make an assumption on speed based on the size of the record. And I pointed to this because this is an override. So if you have, say, a 45 RPM 12-inch, you can still play it, and everything else will be fully automatic. So when you're open, you still also have an on and off switch. So this switch just presses through from the top. And it does have a puck, which when it's engaged, the puck is it's really not touching anything except for the upper surface, which is a very smooth surface and also lubricated. So it doesn't induce any noise. In fact, it's nice to have that extra. It's kind of like if you used a weight on a traditional turntable. So from the standpoint of restoration, just meticulous restoration of all the mechanics up top with your cleaning all the lubricants off. Absolutely, and then just a light application of fresh lubricant as well as a new toner and belt. It does have electronics here as well as the buttons. All the buttons, this is part of standard for me in every restoration, is to remove all the buttons, get all the dust and anything that's accumulated over the years, so that these are really nice, crisp and reliable performance. Then under here, remove the platter, remove this panel, and then you can get at the platter spindle. Actually remove the spindle, so you actually have to get in under the circuit board, remove the spindle, and clean it with isopropyl alcohol and re-lubricate it. I think it's important to get into the electronics below here. Technics used a little bit of circuit glue, which is common in the 80s, and it's important to get that out. That can become corrosive as it ages. So they used a little bit, and I did clean that out. Important for long-term reliability. So there are a number, once you kind of have your everything cleaned and lubed and ready to go from that standpoint, the electronics addressed, is then you move into the calibration. And this has several calibrations relating to the programmability, its ability to find tracks. So all those have been done. It's interesting, it has one, sorry, turn that alarm off. It has one user accessible calibration, which is right here. So if you find when you're playing that it's a little too early or too late in terms of where it drops the needle in terms of the tracks, you can tweak that a little bit with a small Phillips screwdriver. So that's accessible. All the other calibrations are internal and intended for technician. But wanted to highlight another aspect of the restoration, in that I do remove this panel. One of the more critical calibrations for programmability, it's where it's sensing the shininess or the where the tracks are on the record. That's adjusted here in terms of the voltage and its ability to find those. That's adjusted here under this panel, as well as the tone arm servo control, which is absolutely critical from the standpoint, or I believe is critical from the standpoint of the playing of the turntable. So, sorry I'm jumping around a little bit, but as your tone arm tracks, you want it to make small, frequent corrections. In other words, to move across as smoothly and continuously as possible, rather than large, infrequent corrections. So, adjusting the offset in servo, which is done under here, is critical to that, and you do that while it's playing. Now, when you take this off, it provides a great opportunity to polish this piece. So the overall look and feel of this turntable is just phenomenal. Great clarity looking through there. So with that, let's go ahead and put a record on. So I got to be pretty careful here with copyright strikes. So this is a very popular record. So if you just press start, it'll just play. This is kind of like an SL-10. You can queue up. The start and stop buttons then become your position switches. And they have two modes: slow, fast. Slow, fast. And it's neat just from a technical standpoint, but there's actually, each one has two switches under there, and there's a little rocker. And he either engages one or both, or one or both in that direction. And then at that point, you just cue down. Now, you can also press repeat, which is similar to the SL-10 in that it'll either repeat the full size of the record, or with the SL-15 is unique in that it will repeat whatever your program selection is. So let's go ahead and stop. Actually, cue down and then stop, because the stop is a position switch in the up mode. Now let's do this. Let's just say, let's press our program buttons. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this record doesn't even have 7 tracks, but as it scans, now it said, okay, it dropped 7 and 6. So it's saying, okay, there's 5 tracks on the record. I put them in the order from highest to lowest, so it's going to want to play 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When I press stop, and I could have already pressed stop when it was scanning, and then it would just go into play mode. But I didn't do that. I saved it so we could see it in the demo. But when we press start, now it moves across, finds beginning of the track. So you see it caught a little bit of the previous track. And I just want to be careful with the copyright, but let me move to 4. So it's going to back up now. Go to track 4. So right now I have it set. I tend to err. You can see it's just catching a little bit of the previous track as it sets down. So that can be adjusted. I'd rather catch a little bit of the end than miss the beginning, so I err a little bit towards that side. But depending on your records, and you could fine tune that a little better if you'd like. Let's see. Let's do a 45. So very similar to the SL-10, it has an integral adapter, which you just give it a little turn counterclockwise and it pops up. And this is where there's not really any tracks on a 45, so I won't fool with that. It would just find the one track. But let's just press start, and you see it scans across, finds the beginning, makes an assumption of speed, 45. And then starts playing. One thing, actually let me go back and do this. I'm going to make the video a little longer just to show kind of one cool feature. So let's go back to 12-inch record. And let's just say we want to play track 3. So 3, start. Now when you open the hood, it resets completely. If you keep this down and you keep it on, I could do different selections of tracks. I mean, I could play 3 and then I could go back and do a different selection because it remembers what it was doing. But this is kind of what I wanted to show. When you're within a track, you're in track 3, and you use the start stop, it limits the movement to the width of that track. So for instance, if I go to the end of that track, let's go just before the end of that track, it's going to catch the end. So just kind of neat. But anyway, with that, let's wrap this one up. Wonderful turntable. Really enjoyed working on this. I love having this in my system. I really enjoy the SL-10, and this is just kind of a really special version of SL-10, and it's called the SL-15. And hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. Thank you.